I buried my grandmother's ashes in the backyard that night, right under the old oak tree where she'd taught me to climb as a kid, because my parents said cremation was too expensive and a plot at the cemetery would bankrupt us. But the next morning, I found the deed to their secret vacation home in the Florida Keys tucked inside my dad's sock drawer, bought with cash 2 weeks before her funeral, $450,000, no mortgage. And when the hospital called about my tumor, the one pressing on my spine like a goddamn vice, they flat out told me over speakerphone in our cramped kitchen, "Figure it out yourself, Cora. We're tapped out." That's when I knew. I'd been carrying their sins on my back for years, and it was time to make them choke on the weight. It started small, the way these family implosions always do in the heartland. We're from Joliet, Illinois, that Rust Belt suburb where the steel mills coughed their last breath decades ago, and everyone pretends the opioid crisis is just bad luck. Mom and Dad, Linda and Frank Harlan, ran a little auto repair shop off Route 53, the kind with grease-stained calendars from 2012 still pinned to the walls and a perpetual smell of burnt rubber. They weren't rich, but they weren't scraping by either. Dad had a side hustle fixing up junkers for shady flips, and Mom balanced the books with a ledger that never quite added up. I was their only kid, the golden girl who aced AP classes and dreamed of med school, until the real world decided to rewrite the script. The tumor showed up junior year of college, a sneaky little bastard lodged in my lower back, discovered after I collapsed during a shift at the campus diner. The docs at Northwestern said it was operable, $25,000 out of pocket after insurance balked at pre-existing anomalies from some fall I took as a teen. But that was chump change compared to the real knife twist. The fall wasn't mine. It was Dad's. He'd been drunk, swerving home from a poker game in '09, and plowed into a guardrail on I-80. Totaled the truck, cracked his spine in 2 places. Mom made me swear to lie. Say I'd borrowed the keys for a joyride, that I was the reckless one. Cops bought it because I was 16 and teary-eyed, and the insurance payout covered his rehab without a DUI staining the family name. I got a slap on the wrist, community service, and a lifetime of phantom pains that the docs later blamed on stress fractures. Turns out, those fractures hid the tumor's early signs. I'd been the scapegoat, and now it was eating me alive. I confronted them that spring, post-diagnosis, rain hammering the shop's tin roof like it was trying to drown out the truth. "You let me take the fall," I said, voice steady as I slid the old police report across the scarred workbench. Dad's face went the color of transmission fluid, his meaty hands freezing mid-wipe on a rag. Mom fluttered in from the office, her peroxide bobdo looking like a startled hedgehog. "Cora, honey, that was ancient history. We protected you." "Protected me?" I laughed, sharp and ugly, the kind that echoes in empty garages. "You threw me under the bus so you could keep your clean record and that fat insurance check. And now this." I yanked up my shirt, showing the fresh MRI printout, the shadowy mass snaking along my vertebrae like a venomous vine. 25 grand, or I lose the ability to walk. You gonna protect me now?" They exchanged that look, the one they perfected over years of half-truths and bounced checks. Dad cleared his throat, mumbling about the shop's cash flow issues, how the recession had gutted their margins. Mom chimed in with teary eyes. "We're family, Cora. We stick together. But we're tapped out. Maybe crowdfunding? Or GoFundMe?" I stared at her, the woman who'd once sewn my prom dress from thrift store scraps, now peddling platitudes like they were spare parts. That night, alone in my childhood bedroom with its faded Cubs posters peeling from the walls, I cracked open Dad's laptop while they snored through the thin walls. Password: Harlan Racing 87, his old dirt track glory days. Buried in the browser history were Zillow tabs for beachfront condos, wire transfers to an offshore account disguised as business loans. The Florida deed popped up in a saved PDF, closing date March 15th, the day after Grandma's stroke. They'd liquidated her life savings, the nest egg she'd squirreled away from widow's benefits after Grandpa's mill accident, and funneled it into their escape pod. $450,000 for sunsets and Mai Tais, while I stared down paralysis. The hook sank deeper when I found the emails. Dad to some lawyer in Miami. "Keep it quiet. Daughter's got health crap, but she's tough. We'll handle family loose ends later." Mom's replies, peppered with emojis. "Can't wait for pina coladas, babe. Cora will understand once she's stable." Understand? I'd been their human shield since I could walk, covering for Dad's benders, Mom's shopping trips that smelled like cigarette smoke and cheap perfume from the casino in Hammond. The tumor wasn't fate, it was fallout from their lies, and they were jetting off to retire while I hobbled. I didn't cry. Crying's for people who still believe in redemption arcs. Instead, I started plotting. Revenge isn't a light switch. It's a slow fuse, coiled in the gut like bad whiskey. First, I needed leverage. I printed everything. Deeds, emails, bank statements I'd hacked from their shared cloud. Password. Family forever. The irony bitter as black coffee. Then I drove to the shop at dawn, the I-55 fog clinging like a bad omen, and waited for the coffee pot to gurgle before dropping the bomb. "We're selling the Florida place," I said, sliding the stack across the Formica counter. Dad choked on his Folgers, spraying brown flecks on the manifest. "What the hell, Cora? That's our future." "Your future," I corrected, voice low and even, the way you talk down a junkyard dog. "Mine's on life support unless you cough up the surgery cash. $25K, wired by Friday, or this goes to the state's AG. Fraud, elder financial abuse. Grandmas will explicitly forbade dipping into her fund for vacations. Oh, and that accident. Perjury on the police report. I was a minor. You coerced me. Felony territory." Mom burst in then, her moo-moo flapping like a surrender flag. "You ungrateful little. We raised you. Put you through college. Raised me on ramen and resentment, sure. But I held their gaze, the stack of papers a guillotine blade between us." Dad's jaw worked like he was chewing gravel. "This is blackmail, Cora. Blood ain't thicker than." "Save the proverb," I snapped. "You made it water when you let me rot for your mistakes. Sign the listing agreement, or I hit send on these to the Chicago Tribune's tips line. Local mechanics swindle dying matriarch for Keys getaway. Pulitzer bait." They signed, of course. Not out of love, but fear, the great American equalizer. The house sold in a week to some snowbird from Milwaukee, netting just enough after fees. I got my surgery at Rush University Medical Center, a 6-hour marathon under fluorescent hell, waking up in a haze of morphine and monitors. The tumor was benign, thank Christ, but the scars? Those were permanent, etched deeper than the scalpel's work. Recovery was a bitch, PT sessions in a strip mall clinic, learning to walk again on legs that felt like borrowed stilts. Mom sent Hallmark cards with generic get-well kittens. Dad wired an extra $5,000 for incidentals, his note clipped. "Don't make us regret this." Regret? That was my middle name now. But I played nice, posting sunny updates on Facebook from my efficiency apartment in Pilsen, all reclaimed brick walls and ironic succulents. Grateful for family support. Blessed second chances. The likes poured in from high school ghosts, oblivious to the rot. By fall, I was back on my feet. Literally, landscaping gigs to pay the PT copays, saving every dime toward law school apps. That's when the flip started. Dad called one drizzly Tuesday, voice oily as used oil. "Cora, kiddo, we need a loan. Shop's underwater. COVID killed the fleet contracts." I almost laughed. The pandemic had been their excuse for everything lately, from delayed birthdays to essential trips to the track. But I wired $2,000 anyway, told myself it was interest on the emotional debt. Then Mom's texts ramped up, sob stories about health scares, hints at reconciliation dinners. I went, once, to the Greek place on Halstead, where the gyros tasted like regret. They looked smaller there, under the Edison bulbs, Dad's guts spilling over his belt like surrendered territory. "We were wrong," Mom whispered over Retsina, her hand on mine. "Scared parents make stupid choices." I nodded, forked tzatziki, but inside, the fuse hissed louder. The real schemer was Dad. I caught it in fragments. A burner phone bill in the mail, forwarded to my P.O. box, paranoia my new cologne, whispers on their landline that cut off when I visited. One night, scrolling LinkedIn from my futon, I pieced it. Frank Harlan, consulting for a chop shop ring out of Gary, Indiana. High-end restorations, my ass, stolen EVs fenced to collectors, plates swapped in the dead of night. The shop's downturn was a front. They were laundering through it. Mom cooking books like Julia Child on meth. Betrayal's a virus. It mutates. Mine went airborne when I tailed Dad one foggy evening, my Civic blending into the semis on the Skyway. He met a guy in a black Escalade at a derelict warehouse by Lake Michigan, handshakes and envelopes exchanged under sodium lamps. I snapped pics from the shadows, heart pounding like a V8. Back home, cross-referencing Vince on a dark web forum. Don't judge. Desperation breeds hackers. I ID'd the cars. 3 Teslas lifted from a Naperville dealership, valued at $200K retail. Now the secret I'd buried wasn't just the accident. It was complicity. I'd signed off on inventory loans as a teen, forging dates to backdate receipts. They had my prints on the paper trail. If the feds came knocking, I'd be the fall girl again, tumor scars and all. I could have gone straight. DA's office, anonymous tip. Clean, righteous. But righteousness is for suckers in this economy. No, I wanted them to feel the squeeze, the slow crush of choices closing in. So I started small. Anonymous Yelp reviews tanking their Google rating, mechanic botched my transmission, shady as hell. Then fake Craigslist ads for their services, flooding inquiries from undercover plates. Business dried up like the Calumet River in drought. But Dad? He flipped like a bad carburetor. One voicemail, slurred at 2 a.m. You think you're clever, Cora? Digging into family business? I made you. I can unmake you. Unmake me? The gall, after I'd rebuilt from their scraps. I saved it, added to the file. Mom played both sides, as always. Coffee meetup at a Starbucks in Orland Park, her eyes red-rimmed under drugstore mascara. He's spiraling, Cora. The gambling's back. Owes bookies in Hammond. Help us, please. For old times. Old times. Her braiding my hair while Dad fixed the neighbor's Buick for beer money. I wanted to believe her, that maternal pull like gravity. Instead, I slid over a USB drive. Evidence. Turn state's evidence, Mom. Walk away clean. She took it, hugged me stiffly, but by morning, the drive was wiped. Remote nuke from Dad's IP. Flip. They doubled down, shop rebranded as Harlan Heritage Auto. A nod to legacy that made my stomach turn. Winter hit hard that year, snow piling on the flat roofs like unpaid sins. I moved the plan to Phase 2, infiltration. Posed as a client with a vintage Mustang, needing resto, really a beater from a scrapyard, wired with a GPS tracker and audio bugs from an online spy shop. Dad bit, eager for the markup. As he popped the hood in the bay, Mike picking up every mutter, I lingered by the office, palming Mom's phone during her smoke break. Texts galore. To a burner, coordinates for a drop in Blue Island. Package ready. Keep the kid out. Kid. Me, or some new patsy. I cloned the SIM, traced the line to a Shell LLC in Delaware. Fancy for money mules. The climax brewed on a sleet-lashed night in February, the kind where the wind howls off the lake like a scorned lover. I'd leaked just enough to the Gary PD, an anonymous VIN list, time-stamped with Dad's shop logs. Not enough for a raid, but enough for eyes. Sure enough, tails on their tail. Unmarked Crown Vics circling the block as Dad loaded the Escalade with parts that screamed hot. I waited in the shadows across the street, breath fogging the air, phone live-streaming the bugs. Mom's voice crackled. Frank, cops everywhere. Abort. Him, barking back. Screw that. Girls gotta eat. Girl? Then it hit. Their flip. They'd pinned the chop ring on me. Forged emails from my Gmail. Hacked via that ancient family password. Consulting fees, routed to my routing number. The extra $5,000, bait, to muddy my books. Rage boiled, hot and black. I stepped into the sodium glow, coat flapping, and rapped on the bay door. It creaked open, Dad's silhouette hulking like a bad dream. Cora? What the get inside now? I didn't. Heard you're going down, Dad. For my sake, right? The devoted daughter running the family enterprise. His eyes narrowed, calculating. Then, flip. He lunged, grabbing my arm hard enough to bruise. You did this. Snitch bitch. Mom hovered behind, wringing her hands. But her whisper? Let her go, Frank. We can fix. Fix? Like the accident? I twisted free, knee to his gut. Years of PT paying off in a hoof of expelled air. Sirens wailed distant, closing fast. You built this cage. I spat, backing toward the street. Phone uploading live to a cloud server I'd prepped. Now rot in it. Both of you. They scattered, Dad bolting for the Escalade, Mom vanishing into the office shadows. Tires screeched, blue lights painting the snow red and white. I stood there, sleet stinging my face, as cuffs clicked and doors slammed. Mom's plea cut through. Cora, wait. We love you. Love. The word hung, controversial as a loaded gun. Was I the villain, dismantling the only home I knew? Or the hero, torching the lie? Readers, hell, even me, would split hairs till dawn. The feds scooped the evidence I'd seeded, charges piling like drifts. Racketeering, fraud, conspiracy. Dad lawyered up quick, flipped on Mom for a deal. She countered, spilling on him and the kids' involvement. Me? Clean, thanks to timestamps proving hacks, but the stink lingered. Spring thawed the mess. Trial in federal court downtown, glass towers mocking the grit below. I testified, voice steady under the wood-paneled glare, laying out the accident lie, the tumor, the swindle. Jurors shifted, sympathy for the abused daughter, doubt at my calculated leaks. Dad's lawyer painted me as vengeful harpy. Mom sobbed on the stand. She was always headstrong, but we tried. Tried. The word that excuses everything. Verdict split. Dad, 15 years in Terre Haute. Mom, 5 with probation, her flip buying leniency. I got nothing, acquitted before it started, a ghost in the gallery. But the twist? Walking out into Michigan Avenue's bustle, phone buzzing with a text from an unknown number. Mom's burner. Deeds in your name now. Florida. Use it. Forgive. Attached. Transfer docs. Legit as the sunrise. Their final flip, gifting the escape pod, or trapping me in their paradise of guilt. I sold it anyway, wired the proceeds to a trust for other kids with pre-existing denials. Law school's waiting, nights spent outlining torts by desk lamp. Happy ending? Tragic? Depends on the lens. Family's a loaded word, after all. Sometimes you gotta reload to survive. The aftermath tasted like stale diner pie, sweet on the surface, but with a metallic tang that never quite faded. I crashed at a friend's sublet in Wicker Park for a month post-trial. Walls papered in band flyers from Lollapalooza 19, the kind of bohemian clutter that screamed transitional phase. Nights blurred into dawn scrolls on Reddit's r/true crime. Anonymous threads dissecting the Harlan heist like it was a Netflix doc. Daughter's a badass or a backstabber? Polls split 52-48, comments a minefield. Parents had it coming. Midwest Machiavelli vibes. Versus, kid ruined lives for spite. Karma's a bitch. I bookmarked the debates, fuel for the fire that still smoldered low in my belly. Law school apps loomed like storm clouds over the loop, but first, loose ends. The shop? Auctioned off to a Vietnamese chain fixing imports. The sign swapped for Fong Auto Pros overnight. I drove by once, engine humming idle, watching a mechanic in a fresh polo hose down the bays. No ghosts, just progress swallowing the past. But Dad's appeals dragged. Pro-SE filings from prison, rambling missives to the judge about familial coercion, and my manipulative testimony. Copies landed in my P.O. box, courtesy of some court clerk with a soft spot for sob stories. I burned them in a metal bowl on my fire escape, ashes scattering like confetti into the alley below. Mom got out early, good behavior, and a weepy PSR painting her as the enabler, not architect. She surfaced in a halfway house in Berwyn, then vanished into the ether. Rumors via a cousin's Christmas card. Linda's waitressing at a Denny's in Peoria, talking AA meetings and grandkids that ain't coming. Grandkids. The word stung, a reminder of the family tree I'd chainsawed at the roots. I'd dated sporadically, guys from the PT gym, all tattoos and trauma, but nothing stuck. Who wants a girlfriend with baggage heavier than a U-Haul? The real gut punch came in June, heat wave turning the city into a skillet. A letter, postmarked Terre Haute, Dad's scrawl shaky on the envelope. To Cora, my only. Inside, pages of yellow legal pad, ink bleeding where tears or sweat had hit. He spun it poetic. The accident as a father's lapse in a cruel world. The chop shop as survival in the rust. Me as the light he dimmed but never meant to. Then the ask, visit, kid. Tell the board I'm reformed. Blood calls to blood. Blood. That viscous tie, thicker than ink or law. I almost chucked it. Almost. But curiosity's a cruel puppeteer. The drive to Indiana was a slog. 65 baking under a merciless sun, cornfields blurring into gold. Terre Haute loomed like a concrete fever dream. Barbed wire looping lazy over squat buildings, the Wabash River mocking freedom just beyond. Visitation rooms smelled of bleach and despair, inmates shuffling in orange like Halloween rejects. Dad looked hollowed, cheeks caved like bad dentures, but his eyes? Sharp, scheming, flipping from contrite to calculating in a blink. Cora, he rasped, palms flat on the scarred table. You came. Not for you, I said, sliding into the plastic chair, barrier glass humming faintly electric. Closure. What's left of it? He leaned in, breath fogging the partition. I get it. The anger. But hear me out. We flip this. You testify at my hearing. Pardon push. Say it was all me. You the victim. Victim. The word he'd weaponized, now offered like a olive branch dipped in arsenic. I laughed, low and mirthless. Flip? Like you did, Mom? Or me? With the fall. His face twitched, denial flickering before the mask slipped. That was protection, Cora. World eats the weak. I made you strong. Strong enough to bury you. I countered, voice steady as the mag-mile traffic. But doubt crept in, that controversial whisper. Was strength just another cage? He'd raised me on shop lore. Wrenches as extensions of will. Engines as hearts you could rebuild. Without that grit, I'd be adrift, not the woman staring down DAs and dealers. The guard called time too soon, buzzer harsh as a judge's gavel. Dad pressed a hand to the glass. Think on it. Family's all we got. I walked out into the parking lot blaze, AC blasting cold truth in my Civic. Family. The hook that kept reeling me back. Back in Chicago, the city pulsed with summer sins. Fireworks popping over the lakefront. Bodies packed into rooftop bars pretending the pandemic was a bad dream. I dove into apps. Aced the LSAT on spite. But nights? Sleepless marathons replaying his pitch. Flip or fold. I called a prof buddy from undergrad, now clerking at a firm in the Loop. Hypothetical. I said over Zoom, pixels blurring his bow tie. If a con flips on kin for a deal, ethical gray area? He chuckled, dry as Merlot. Ethics? In law? Kid, it's all gray. Motive matters. Revenge or redemption? Redemption. The word hung, bait on Dad's line. Mom resurfaced then, a Facebook friend request from Linda Harlan Smith, hyphenated, like reinvention. Profile pic, her at a county fair, arm around a collie, smile forced but eyes haunted. Message, pancakes? My treat. Neutral ground. Neutral, a Bob Evans off I-55, vinyl booth sticky with syrup ghosts. She looked older, lines etched like bad welts. But the hug? Real, bone crush real. Missed you, baby girl. We ordered stacks, bacon crisp, and she spilled. Halfway house horrors, AA confessions, a boyfriend who bailed when the charges hit the news. Your dad. He's poisoned, Cora. Always was. But you? You're the antidote. Antidote. Flattery with fangs. Midway through, her phone buzzed, burner vibes. She glanced, paled, silenced it. Work, she lied, but I clocked the area code, 812. Terre Haute. You're his pipeline, I said, fork pausing midair. Feeding appeals? Or just chit-chat? Her eyes welled, controversial tears, genuine grief, or Oscar bait. He calls, I answer. Habit. But I'm done flipping, Cora. Help me stay straight. The ask hung, mirror to Dad's. Testify for her expungement, paint her the redeemed. I paid the bill, left a 20 tip for the waitress's sake. Outside, humidity thick as regret, I turned. No more games, Mom. Clean break, or I leak the rest. The rest, her casino logs, skimmed from the shop for slots. Leverage, eternal. She nodded, but as I drove away, rear view catching her silhouette shrinking, I wondered, was I the puppeteer now, or just another string? Law school letter came in August, Northwestern, full ride on a diversity scholarship, my resilience narrative gold. Celebration drinks at the hideout, blues whale and cheap whiskey. Toasts to Cora the Conqueror. But conquest's hollow without witnesses. I ghosted the victory lap, drove to the old backyard oak instead, Grandma's stone marker mossy now. They flipped till the end. I whispered to the wind. Am I next? Fall semester hit like a freight train. Torts and contracts in seminar rooms smelling of old books and ambition. I thrived, footnotes my new weapons, but Dad's hearing loomed. Subpoena pulling me back to Indiana like a riptide. The boardroom was sterile, wood paneling mocking the orange jumpsuit. His pitch, polished, my daughter's here to vouch, changed man. Eyes on me, I stood, notes in hand. Frank Harlan raised me on lies. I began, voice echoing. The accident. His drunk crash, my blame. The business? Chop shop, my forged cigs under duress. Gasps rippled, board members shifting like they sat on coals. But reform? That's the flip I can't buy. He gifted me a house to buy silence, not souls. Dad's face crumpled, betrayal raw, his flip rejected. Cora, you. Family, I cut in, isn't a get-out-of-jail card. It's accountability. The denial came swift, parole denied, another 5 years tacked for a lack of remorse. Driving back, 65 a ribbon of redemption, phone rang mom. Heard. Proud. Proud. The word controversial, laced with what-ifs. Yeah, I lied. Clean now. Her paws stretched, then, mostly. But Cora, there's more. The accident, not just drunk. Hit something. Someone. The twist uncoiled, venomous. The road blurred, taillights smearing red into the dusk like fresh wounds. Mom's words looping on speaker. Not just drunk. Hit something. Someone. My knuckles whitened on the wheel, pulse thundering louder than the engine's hum. What do you mean, someone? Mom, talk. Static crackled, her voice small against the AC's drone. A hitchhiker. Kid, maybe 18. Frank swerved, but... Thump. We panicked. You were asleep in the back. God, Cora, you were 12. He made me bury it, out by the quarry off 53. Told you it was a deer if you woke. Deer. The lie I'd parroted to Sunday school, the bump that haunted my dreams with phantom hooves. I pulled over at a rest stop, gravel crunching under tires, the Wabash a dark snake beyond chain link. Bury? As in body. The word tasted like rust. Her sob broke through. No. Shallow grave, but... Alive? I don't know. We ran. Insurance guy hushed it. Your false story covered the damage. But the kid. Missing persons. Joliet Herald, 09. Runaway teen, possible foul play. Foul play. The euphemism for family felony. I hung up, hands shaking as I Googled from the dash. Signal weak. But there. Evan Whitaker, 18, vanished July 4th weekend. Last seen thumbing west on 53. Tips. 815-555, JPD. Grainy yearbook pic. Tousled hair, shy grin, dreams of community college dashed into dirt. The secret I'd shouldered wasn't just the crash. It was a cover-up, potential manslaughter, my childhood sworn to silence. They'd made me the vault, tumor and all, while Evan's family grieved a ghost. Rage reignited, not at them now, but the mirror. How many flips had I enabled? Back in the city, Pilsen streets alive with mariachi echoes from Ticarius. I hold up with case law and coffee, cross-referencing obits and dockets. No body, no charge, statute flickering like a bad bulb. But cold cases had heat if poked right. I emailed the tip line anonymously, attaching Dad's old dash cam stills, salvaged from the shop's attic pre-auction. Timestamped thump visible in grainy night vision. Possible lead. Quarry off 53, 2009. Replies trickled. Under review. Contact Detective Reyes. Reyes called a week later. Voice gravel from too many smokes. Harlan. Your folks mess, huh? Kid. This reopens hell for everyone. Everyone. Evan's mom, a widow in a trailer park, still lighting candles on the porch. I met her at a park in Crest Hill. Swings creaking empty under October oaks. Marlene Whitaker, 60 now, face weathered like the quarry stone, clutched a thermos of bad Diner Joe. You knew? She asked, eyes sharp behind bifocals. Knew enough to lie. I admitted, bench cold under us. They flipped the blame. To me, then each other. It's my shot at truth. Truth. Controversial currency, buying absolution or arsenic. She nodded, slow. Evan wanted mechanic work. Thought your dad's shop was hiring. Irony bit deep. We swapped stories, his love of engines, my grease monkey youth, until sirens wailed distant, pulling us apart. The dig started mid-month. Backhoes scarring the earth where corn gave way to clay, forensics teams in white suits like ghosts at a grave. Media swarmed, WGN vans, sometimes stringers yelling, Harlan daughter, vengeance or justice? I dodged mics, but the split deepened online. Free Frank trending with she's railroading an innocent man versus justice for Evan. Finally, accountability in the heartland. Dad's letters ramped up, frantic scrawls. Lies. Dear Cora, protecting you. Mom went radio silent. Then a midnight call from a Peoria payphone. He's raging. Thinks you set him up for this. Set up? The flip eternal. Reyes looped me in off books, coffee at a Greek joint in Bridgeport, spanakopita cooling untouched. Bones confirmed, Evan. Blunt trauma, but paramatum. Fought back. Fought. The kid clawed for life while they fled. Charge Harlan. I pressed, steam rising like questions. With what? Your word against his statutes tight. But civil? Wrongful death suit. Evan's estate could bury him. Bury. Poetic, dark. I filed pro bono through Northwestern's clinic. Marlene as plaintiff, me as shadow counsel. Depots under fluorescent buzz. Dad via video link. Cuffed and snarling. Coercion. The girl, Linda, panicked, buried evidence. I was unconscious. Flip on Mom, again. Her depot followed, virtual from a Berwyn motel, looking like a deer in floods. Frank drove. I helped clean. Cora was innocent. Innocent. The absolution I'd craved, served lukewarm. Trial loomed winter. Cook County Courthouse a colossus of marble and malice. Jury pool, blue-collar types from the South Side. Eyes weary of white-collar woes, but hungry for underdog wins. Opening statements crackled. Plaintiff's bar skewering the Harlan's house of horrors. Defense countering a grieving widow's desperate grasp at closure, funded by vendetta. Testimony dragged, days bleeding into weeks. Marlene on the stand, voice cracking over Evan's scrape-knee stories, jury dabbing eyes. Then me. They taught me lies were love. The accident, my scar. The burial, my silence. But silence ends. Cross-exam gutted. Ms. Harlan, your leaks to police. Revenge for a denied surgery? The betrayal loop, spun vicious. Dad's turn. Hulking even shackled. Spinning yarns of youthful error. Tears for the boy I couldn't save. Jury leaned in. Some nodding. Midwest mercy for the flawed father. Mom flipped last, sobbing. I covered for him, for us. But Cora, she was the real victim. Victim. The word weaponized, splitting the room. Sympathy for the enabler or scorn for the snake. Closing arguments peaked dramatic, snow howling outside like furies. Plaintiffs, justice isn't clean. It's the quarry dirt under nails, the truth exhumed. Defense, forgiveness for the fallen. The Harlans paid, prison, poverty. Let the dead rest. Rest. Controversial call, pitting grudge against grace. Verdict after 2 days. 2.3 million, joint and several, assets garnished to dust. Cheers for Marlene's corner, gasps for mine. Dad's appeal filed instant. Mom vanished again, rumored crossing state lines to Wisconsin kin. But the real storm brewed post-trial, bar exam looming like a guillotine. I aced it, hung my shingle solo. Harlan and Associates, ironic nod to the name I'd reclaim. Clients trickled, slip and falls, DUIs, folks chewed by the system like I was. Evan's case. It cracked wider. Reyes raiding Dad's old associates. Chop ring unraveling like cheap yarn. Fed time stacked, but whispers of a snitch. Mom, flipping federal for witness protection. Her final text, from a ghost number. Safe now. Sorry doesn't cut it, but it's all I got. Live free, Cora. Free. The word taunted, as I stood on that Florida beach one spring break. Keys to the sold houses echo in my pocket. Waves crash judgmental, sun mocking the chill in my bones. Happy? Tragic? The debate eternal, waves eroding answers. Years folded like accordions, law practice bloating into a firm. Me lead, associates green as spring weeds, caseload heavy with the dispossessed. Evictions in Englewood, asylums denied in Little Village. The Harlan name drew them, a beacon or a warning, depending on the whisper network. I thrived on the edge, billables stacking like cordwood, but sleep? Elusive, haunted by quarry dreams. Evan's hand clawing dirt, Dad's laugh echoing wind. Mom's ghosted life surfaced sporadically. A Christmas card from Eau Claire, postmarked Wisconsin, scrawled with thinking of you. Weather's kinder here. Kinder. The flip to normalcy, leaving me the villain in her rewrite. Dad's appeals cycled like bad seasons. Denied, refiled. Each loss a postcard from Terre Haute. You're killing me slow, kid. Blood debt. Debt. The ledger I'd balanced in red. Marlene faded too, settlement funding a modest bungalow, her suing days done. Last call, voice frail. You gave me peace, Cora. But does it buy yours? Peace. Controversial prize, slippery as lake ice. The fuse relit in 24, heat dome baking the Midwest into submission, AC units wheezing surrender. Client walk-in. Jittery kid, 20-something, ink fresh tat of a cross on his neck, eyes darting like cornered prey. Name's Tyler Whitaker. Evan's brother. Brother. The word landed like a live wire. We talked in my corner office, view of the L rattling past like urban thunder. Tyler spilled. Grew up in the trailer's shadow, Marlene's miracle boy after the loss, now a welder chasing night classes. Saw your name in the obit section. Evan's stone finally placed. Mom said you dug it up. Dug. Literal and lit. He needed help. Workplace comp denied after a mill crush, bones mangled like his brother's fate. Heard you fight dirty. For family. Family. The hook sank anew. I took the case pro bono. Depots in Gary's steel ghost town. Foreman's lies crumbling under cross like rusted beams. But Tyler's flips unnerved. Charming one meet. Sullen the next. Text ghosting then flooding with sorry sis. Old wounds. Sis. The adoption of kinship. Controversial as claiming lost kin. Trial crushed. 6 figures. Tyler's grin wide as the Wabash. Celebration at a dive on 5th. Shots of Malort burning bitter. To Cora, the Avenger. He toasted, eyes gleaming too bright. Later, in the lot, gravel under heels, he leaned close. Dad's out soon. Parole board flipped. Good behavior. Wants to meet. Dad. The name conjured bile. Not my circus. Tyler's hand on my arm, gripped firm. Evan would have wanted. Reconciliation. Reconciliation. The Midwest myth. Platitude for poison. I drove home rattled. Pilsen Street slick with evening rain. Radio droning Cubs woes. Parole confirmed online. Early release. Halfway house in Kankakee. Conditions. Restitution. Counseling. Restitution. The 2.3 mil. Pennies paid from prison wages. The meeting ambushed me a month later, tailing my run to the lakefront. Dad, gaunt in civvies, gray stubble framing a tentative smile. Cora, walk with me. Walk. Like old times, shop to supper. I should have bolted, but the path curved north, waves lapping judgment. He talked halting. AA steps, shop dreams revived legit, lessons learned. Learned. The flip to sage, robes of redemption donned cheap. Cut the act. I said, bench by the yacht club, sails flapping white flags. What's the angle? Tyler put you up? His laugh, rusty. Kid's got heart. Like you. But no angle, just time served. Let me make amends. Amends. The word controversial, bait for the bitten. We met again. Neutral diner off 94, pie cooling untouched. Stories swapped. His cell block philosophies, my courtroom conquests. Flips surfaced. His blame on mom's hysteria, her on his rage, but softened, edges sanded by years. Tyler joined third meet, trio awkward as a bad blind date. Family 2.0, he quipped, but eyes probed. Mine for cracks, dad's for cons bonds formed tentative. Barbecues in Marlene's yard, her collie sniffing dad's ankles wary. Laughter echoed, controversial as forgiveness. Was it healing or hallucination? Mom crashed the illusion Christmas 24, unannounced at my door, snow-dusted coat, hiding frailty. Heard through vines. Can I? Vines. The family grapevine, twisted. Dinner strained. Turkey dry. Tensions thick. Dad's toast. To flips, may we stop? Mom's eyes met mine, apology unspoken. Tyler's grin hid teeth. But the twist uncoiled New Year's, confetti settling like fallout. Tyler's call, voice edged. Cora, Dad skipping town. Took Marlene's check, settlement skim. Skim. The Harlan hustle, reborn. I raced to Kankakee. Halfway house lights dim, manager shrugging. Harlan? Cleared out midnight. Cash in pocket. Pocket. Dad's flip final. Restitution reversed. Vanishing act with mom in tow. Trail leading to a bus ticket stub for Reno. Rage crested, but laced with laugh. Predictable as rust. Tyler wept on my stoop. Marlene's fury via text. Fools. But you. You're gold. Gold. The alchemist's dream, turning lead to light. I didn't chase. Filed warrants quiet. Let feds hunt ghosts. Firm thrived. Harlan and Whitaker now. Tyler clerking summers. His grit my mirror. Nights, I climbed that old oak in dreams, branches strong, tumor a scar story. Ending? You debate. Did I win, torching ties for truth? Or lose, forever the orphan in the heartland gale? Blood calls, but echoes fade. I choose the horizon, American as apple pie and endless roads.